October 18th, St. Luke, Evangelist. Among the companions and fellow laborers of St. Paul was one whom he held very dear and who scarcely ever left him. This was St. Luke, the great historian of the early church, for he wrote not only a gospel or life of our Lord, but also an account of the events which followed the Ascension and of the preaching of the principal apostles. St. Luke was a native of Antioch, the capital of Syria, and was by profession a doctor of medicine, for St. Paul calls him his most dear physician. He was probably converted at Antioch in the early days of the church and attached himself to St. Paul, whom he accompanied in his apostolic journeys. Nor did he leave that apostle when he was carried prisoner from Jerusalem to Rome, but remained by his side during the 2 years of his detention. He was also with St. Paul during his second imprisonment and remained with him to the last, carrying back to the east the news of his glorious martyrdom. The Gospel of St. Luke, as was the case with those of the other evangelists, was written for the instruction of the people to whom he preached. His labors were principally cast among the polished inhabitants of Greece and Asia Minor, whom he strove to win to the love of Jesus by the beautiful example of his virtues and the sublime morality of his public teaching. Thus he chooses for their instruction the most tender and touching of our Lord's parables, and exhibits before their eyes a teacher whose tender compassion for mankind and unbounded charity prove him to be not a mere man, but the very God of love, come to redeem his creatures. In the beginning of his gospel, St. Luke tells us that what he relates he learned from faithful witnesses of that which they told him. For the evangelists, though preserved from error by a special inspiration, were not exempted from employing human means to acquire a knowledge of the facts which they record. St. Luke would have many opportunities of obtaining accurate information while mingling with the apostles and disciples of our Lord. But as regards the events of the early life of Jesus, he had evidently the best of informants in our Blessed Lady herself, for he relates circumstances about her annunciation and visitation, as also about the birth, presentation, and finding of our Lord, which he could not have learned from any lips but her own. Hence it is not surprising to learn from tradition that St. Luke was the most devoted servant of the Blessed Mother of God, and that he frequently employed his talent as an artist in reproducing in colors on wood the features of his beloved mistress. The history of the Acts of the Apostles was written by St. Luke, like his Gospel, in the Greek language, of which he was a perfect master, and which was the mother tongue of most of those to whom he preached. It was composed in Rome during the time of St. Paul's first imprisonment, and was intended to correct the false relations, which had been published in many places, regarding the actions of the apostles, and also to make known more widely the wonderful works of God in the foundation and establishment of his church. After the death of St. Paul, St. Luke continued his apostolic labors, which had been interrupted by the imprisonment of the apostle. The exact circumstances of his death are uncertain, but he probably finished his course by martyrdom in Achaia, a province of the Peloponnesus. On account of St. Luke's frequent reference in his Gospel to the sacerdotal office of our Lord, he is supposed to have been symbolized in the vision of Ezekiel by an ox or calf, which was the emblem of priestly sacrifice.